Hello, and welcome to a wrap up already. It's come around fast. Maybe that's because I filmed the June wrap up very late. So this feels like it's rushed up on me. Nevertheless, July is ending. Another month has gone by in the fastest year known to man. One thing I will say about July though is the uni reads are back. They were gone. I thought they were gone for a little while longer, and then all of a sudden, this cheeky bastard pops his head back up and comes running at me.
Come on, coward. No, come on. You're not an intellectual. You're a fake and a fraud.
So, you're going to see some uni reads. Some good, some not quite so good. That's the aim of the game, though, to whittle out those that are worth the time and to cast the other ones into the abyss to never think about again. Hopefully, this is going to be a quick one, because England are playing in the final of the Euros against Germany in a couple of hours, and I want to be there for it.
Captain of the European champions of England. The long wait is over.
If you do enjoy, please do like, please do subscribe, and if you have read any of these, or are hoping to, please let me know what you think. Tell me why I'm wrong, tell me why I'm right. I always enjoy hearing the latter. And I'll ignore the former. First book of the month was one that I actually started in June, but I finished it on the 1st of July, and that is Shadows of Self by Brandon Sanderson, the second book in Mistborn Era 2. This is a big improvement on Alloy of Law, and actually made me realise that I didn't enjoy Alloy of Law even more than I thought I was met on it. So I downgraded Alloy of Law to a 3-star, and this is now a 3.5 star, because the first 100 pages of this book had me very worried. I was so out of it. I did not care in the slightest. And the plot is very much that following the events of Alloy of Law, there is an invitation of the kind of big crime lot in this city. Whilst there, everyone's fucking murdered. There is an assassination that takes place of all these people, and so Wax and Wayne are investigating who did it. So whilst we're setting up the crime, I had no interest at all, because once again, the comedy, so hit and miss. Some things make me laugh, some things make me cringe laugh, some things just, I'm not a big fan of Wax or Wayne. They have elements that I can cling on to, but as a whole, I have no interest in their characters, which for a series about them is a worry, I won't lie. Nevertheless, when the actual investigation got started and they're starting to track, I won't say what or who the killer is, but that was so interesting. This book does a lot to expand on the connotations of the Mistborn world, does a lot to expand and draw from the first trilogy. There was an expansive quality to it whilst staying as a very small-scaled, we're investigating this crime. So I think the plot was well handled once it got started. And like I said, the world building was extremely satisfying in how it expanded. The characters, though, they aren't for me. And I get people love Wax and Wayne, and I 100% appreciate why. I 100% see why. But personally for me, it's just not my cup of tea. And then just as quickly, uni reads sneak up on you. Here we go. Now, first off though, this is the Norman Anthology of English Renaissance Drama. I know what you're thinking. Wow, that sounds fucking riveting. It is alright. But I am reading a few of the plays from this for uni, and the two I've read so far for this module, I read The Spanish Tragedy and The Duchess of Malfi. I think it's pronounced Malfi, don't know. Nevertheless, they're the two I read. They are both Jacobean, or that era. I don't remember. I don't remember exactly when The Spanish Tragedy was written. Jacobean era revenge dramas. These are the beginnings of revenge theatre in England. And the first one, because it is The Spanish Tragedy is the defining, this is where it began pretty much. So there's not, there's no surprises. You're not exactly riveted. A lot of the stuff I was reading and I was like, oh shit, this Shakespeare definitely took from this. There was no doubt about it. There's a lot of overlays between Hamlet and that with this. And then the Duchess of Malfi was the same for the first half, and then it got super interesting. They're both revenge dramas where no one gets out alive. That's kind of the whole deal. But the Duchess of Malfi is about a woman who is in control of her finances. She married into a dukedom, her husband died, and there's no heirs, so she has no one to control her finances. So in the time, she is one of the only women that has a dependency on herself. She's independent with who she can remarry with, who she can, like, what she can do with her money and her land. And so she decides to marry a man called Antonio, who's way below her station. And her brother, it's fair to say he's not the biggest fan of it. And so her brother's like, bruh, bitch taking liberties. She needs to get back in line. You know, like all good men do. You know, crush them under your heel. And so it's just a revenge drama, but from the perspective of a seemingly slighted brother. And it was super interesting, the relationships there. And yeah, I really enjoyed the latter half of that play. So if you want to read something that's fucking weird, yeah. Another uni read, but one that I actually have been wanting to read and did already own, is Clara and the Sun by Kazuo Ishiguro. This is my first book by him, and fair to say I was mixed again. I gave this 3 stars. I could see myself going up to 4 if I really fancied it, but I feel like I took a lot away. You can see I've tabbed this book because I'm going to be studying it, and there were a lot of things to take away. A lot of the world building and the creation of Clara as a character. The whole point is that Clara is an AF, an artificial friend, who at the beginning of the book is in a store waiting for someone to buy them and put them into their family. And then this whole mystery starts of she gets purchased by a family, and things just, they're not quite right. The daughter's ill, and yeah, there's this whole thing going on. Was 100% on board. But then I, about halfway through, was like, oh, I know what the twist of this book's going to be. And I was completely correct. And it weirded me out because there's like an allusion to something very odd that isn't the case. That's all the spoilers done. Back to reality. That's all the spoilers done. Back to reality. I didn't personally enjoy the twist. I didn't personally enjoy the ending so much. Overall, I do think it's a worthwhile read, and I do think people will take something away from it. The prose is very nice. There's no denying that, and I do plan on reading, like, Never Let Me Go. I plan on continuing with his work. There is a sense of an old man writing new stuff. Like, that kind of disconnect of, like, it's like men writing women, but for old people, like boomers writing fucking Gen Z. Next up, oh boy, all that dog of mine. Jade Legacy, masterpiece. Greenbone Saga, fantastic. Now we can get down to the nitty gritty now that I've finished. This is a masterpiece, like I said. The expansion in this series is second to none. The idea of, imagine World War One. And with the idea that we always talk about, Franz Ferdinand, the moment when he was assassinated, started this whole cataclysm. Jade City has that moment. There is a moment that happens that affects the future of everything in this series. And we are following the decades that go by and the spirals and spans that happen following this kind of cataclysmic event. And so, as the series progresses, we expand. We go from one place and the schism inside of it to then the opposing, these intruding other nations. Then we've got the expansion of technology, the idea of trade and influence and pop culture. And this whole thing expands, and it's like a map unfolding, and you just see more and more. Time continues growing in larger and larger chunks. We go from what's very, like I said, a moment to a few years of change to then decades. We grow with these characters and we see them evolve. We see the culture evolve. We see so much happen. And people say, I've seen so many people say that I couldn't put down the last half of this book. As soon as I got to the last half, I couldn't put it down. For me, the first half was the most riveting thing I've ever read, because I talked about this in Jade War, I think, but for me, part of me found the Greenbone clans, because they are predatory, they're not good. These aren't good people in the sense of like holier than thou. They are muddy people. They are making mistakes. They are making decisions that you do not agree with. That is a staple of this. And for someone that grew up in an area that is affected by gang and drug issues, I found myself extremely opposed to feeling sympathy for some of the characters, because I'm like, bro, you're doing so much worse shit. And so I found myself feeling very sympathetic to a certain group that was set up, and kind of like the little threads were put together of like, oh, is there going to be redemptive arc for this person? Are they going to make a change? And then we see that movement coerced and manipulated and destroyed from outside in, and made to do an incredibly despicable and horrifying act. And then that completely, it was geniusly done. And I could not put that down. The first half of Jade Legacy is a masterpiece unto itself, and could have ended there, in my opinion, and I would have gone absolute perfection. And then it just continues in that same vein, and it's just brilliant. Everyone should read Greenbone. It's astounding. If you've been thinking about reading Greenbone and you're like, I'm not quite sure, fucking bang that shit out, fam. I read all three. Bingo bango. Then we continue into my read along with Grace, which is the City Watch series. We have now hit the 5th book, aptly named The Fifth Elephant. This basically follows the idea that Vimes and the gang have been sent to a neighbouring realm to do him as the Duke, and he has to do bureaucracy, and chaos ensues. This was a return to form, in my opinion. Jingo overstepped its boundaries. It wasn't quite as focused on the characters in the City Watch. It was pushing out into the larger world a bit too heavily, in my opinion, and it got a bit lost. Fifth Elephant brings it back to brilliant moments with the City Watch. Vimes, Detritus, Little Bottom, so many brilliant moments. Angela, Carrot, we are back with the boys. In this book, there is one of the most hilarious developments, which is Corporal Nobby Knobs and Sergeant Colon. One of them has become a basically dictator of the City Watch. He is wiping people out left, right, and centre, firing them. And then, as a result, we see the foundation of what is basically a union. And it's a great little subplot in this book, just this little schism between these two. And like the idea of a boss that has no idea what he's doing, and he's just paranoid. And he's taking out on those that are trying to help him. And it's so funny. And then the union, I was laughing so hard. Terry Pratchett, absolute goat. Then it was the Discord book club read, which took me by surprise. It was a Wizard of Earthsea. The first in the Ursula Le Guin Earthsea cycle, and I was not sure what I was going to get from this, and I got a really fun book. It is about Ged, who is a young boy who finds out he can do magic, and gets ravelled up in this ever-growing story. It spans, once again, decades of his life. He gets older, and, well, not decades, maybe decade, 15 years, as he grows. And the whole idea is that Ged is a kind of a dick. He's a really annoying kid that thinks that he knows it all, and as a result makes a big mistake and releases something that he then feels the responsibility to deal with. The prose is gorgeous. Very Robin Hobb-esque, because evidently Hobb was influenced by Le Guin. In this book there is a character called Farseer. There is like a lot of allusions to Robin Hobb style writing, but also going the other way. I would describe the larger plot at hand in this book as Frankenstein. It gave me massive Mary Shelley vibes in the plot, but yeah, gorgeous writing, super quick to read, fun, like super interesting in the sense of whilst being a classic, it felt quite innovative in a lot of ways. And if it came out now, I'd think, oh, this is very, like, these are super interesting new ideas. Then I read 3 books that I'm not going to discuss in this video because they are going to be in a video I'm uploading on Friday, hopefully, which is my reading Philip Chase's Philip Chase's books that he recommended me. So I read all those 3. They are some very fun books, some very interesting books, because of course they're chosen by Philip Chase. So would 100% check out that video when it comes out, but not going to talk about them here. So instead we're going to move on to the next book, which is Fun Home, a tragicomic by Alison Bechdel. This was amazing. I had no idea what to expect going in, because why? It's a uni read. Indulge yourself, find out as you go along. This book is about it's a memoir about this girl who grows up in a very controlling household. Her father is extremely controlling, rather strange, rather odd, and it is a reflection of this woman as she's grown up. Her father is now dead. He died weeks after she came out as lesbian, and she found out that her father had also had relationships with men, was known for having sex with men, but also was known as having relationships with people underage. And so we are having a reflection of the parallelism that this woman finds with her father, their love of literature, signs whether she feels responsible, whether her father did commit suicide or whether it was an accident, how she feels about that event, whether she wants it to be an accident or wants it to be suicide, how they influence how she views everything, how she views herself. There's so much layering and meaning to this, and it was super dark, raw, and it was riveting. Read it super quick because it's a graphic novel, but I would recommend sitting on it because it unveils itself and it unravels itself and asks super dark questions. The next one I have to do an apology for. I have to do an apology for Tom, for Pete, Esme, all the people, Grace, all the people in my Discord that I told that I had no interest in reading, and they said, this is a brilliant book. And I went, nah. And that is Hunger Games by Susanna Collins. Suzanne Collins? Bruh, I don't know. Suzanne, I think. This was fantastic. Everyone knows what Hunger Games is. I'm not going to explain the plot. If you don't know what Hunger Games is, then I'm sorry. I don't think you know how to access the internet. I did not expect the writing to be as good as it is, the plot to be as riveting as it was. The only thing that let me down in this book was the romance, and that is a staple of YA fantasy or YA literature as a whole. I read it, and when the question is, oh, which boy should this girl get with? Should it be this one or this one? My answer is, because they're always terrible. There's always like, they remind me of my father, or well, they're so daring, and are they evil? I don't know. And I'm like, bro, you should not be questioning whether this person's going to murder you. The romance, I understand why it is like it is, and if anything, it's a testament to how well it is done in this particular one, because it's meant to be off-putting. You're meant to read it and feel like there is a predatory nature to it, because there is. Very much so, and it's a predatory nature from the society downwards. Like, it's like a triangle effect that has ended up at them, and for that reason it does a great job. It's just made me uncomfortable reading it. And then the final book, this is also for uni, and this was an utterly spellbinding and miserable book. It was very sad. It is Poems from Guantanamo, The Detainees Speak. And so, of course, for those that don't know what Guantanamo Bay is, it was a, what's the word to call it? A detainment camp in Cuba, set up following the 9/11 attacks. And from 2002, I think, until 2005, it operated without any knowledge, and they would just detain Muslims. Sometimes it'd be others, but it was predominantly Muslims, and they would be tortured. They would have their religious texts destroyed in front of them. They would be stripped down naked and sexually humiliated. Women would touch them, which of course, as a devout Muslim, it's horrific. They would be starved, force-fed. If they tried to not eat, they would be force-fed. Things that broke Geneva Conventions, things that went against all humanitarian rights and all things that America is supposedly standing for. Guantanamo Bay is a fucking embarrassment to a country. The fact that it's still open is a travesty, and everyone in America should be doing something to close that despicable piece of history, because the fact that it operated at all is disgusting, and the fact that Donald Trump signed fucking orders to keep it open indefinitely, etc., is an embarrassment. And this book just shows exactly why, because these are poems not written expecting to be released. These are not poems written to get a reaction. These are poems by a people that have always written poetry, have always believed in poetry, the power of it. And these are people that aren't professionals. They are just, it's their only way of describing or having any effect. Try to explain how they feel. And it is horrifying. There is one particular poem that sticks out to me, which is called the Death Poem. And it is by a person who tried to commit suicide 12 times whilst in Guantanamo Bay. And the final stanza is, "And let them bear the guilty burden before the world of this innocent soul. Let them bear the burden before their children and before history of this wasted, sinless soul, of this soul which has suffered at the hands of protectors of peace." And that is, in my opinion, the epitome of what this is. It is a group of people that were arrested for almost always no reason and released with no charges or no evidence of any wrongdoing. And they were tortured for no reason. And yeah, despicable. But that would be it. Way to end on a fucking bummer. That would be the end of the video. They are all the books I read this month. Some amazing books, some not so amazing books. I actually found that I enjoyed way more of the uni reads than I thought I was going to. That's 10 books. Pretty baller. If you have enjoyed, please do like, please do subscribe. Let me know any thoughts, because I always like to hear. I always like to see the comments. Thank you very much for the comments on the bookshelf tour. There were so many great long comments suggesting different things or commenting on different things, and it was fantastic. I really appreciated it. So have a nice rest of your day.